I never have taken Stone Mountain for granted. But that's there. That curbside is granite. And that goes all in the downtown area, 82%. I was brought in around 1925. Here we cross Piedmont with the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains here on Piedmont Road. Atlanta's 1,102 feet altitude, making it the highest major city on the East Coast. And I use the word major city. And we're the third largest city in land area size in the United States. Going down 10th Street, we'll make a left here on Peachtree Street. We got the name Peachtree Street, oh Lordy, from the Creek Indians, because they called it pitch. You can't grow peach trees in Atlanta, Georgia. If you can, they're not very good. The acidic soil is not good for growing peaches, so they always would say pitch, and everyone thought they were saying peach. This is back in the 1830s. And speaking about Stone Mountain, it's 22 miles away to our east. It's 853 feet high and 5 miles in diameter, making it the largest exposed piece of granite in the world. There was never any Civil War activity out there. A lot of people think there was. There's statues with Jefferson Davis, oh Lordy, and Robert E. Lee, Stonewall Jackson. I know who the fourth is, but I'm not telling. We're going to keep him a mystery. He wore a mask during the Civil War. And we're going on Peachtree Street. Now, Peachtree Street, there's 103 Peachtree Streets. And Peachtree Street goes right to Detroit, Michigan. You can take it right to Detroit where it dead ends if you want to go that way. It's 857 miles going that way. But you can get there doing it. And right behind us is the Margaret Mitchell house. Margaret Mitchell wrote Gone with the Wind. She passed away in the 40s. A taxi driver with 28 moving violations hit her at 13th Street and Peachtree. Margaret Mitchell, pretty private person. We're coming up to the fabulous Fox Theater. That's it. Peachtree and North, Peachtree and Ponce de Leon. And Enrico Caruso played there in 1914. Fox Theater was saved. It was almost torn down in the 1970s. There's a tunnel going underneath the Hotel Georgia and Terrace until the Fox Theater that was shut down in 1926. And right next to Georgia Tech was where Ted Turner started CNN, which is, I'll always consider that to be part of Atlanta history as CNN, whether, I don't care what you call it now, but it's still CNN. And Georgia Tech has it's a Ramblin' Wreck. That's the fight song, and that song is the second oldest fight song in the United States if you need deep trivia. Boring trivia, it's the second oldest there is. The first major hotel in Atlanta, over 20 stories, was built in the late 60s. The architect was John Portman, and it was the Regency Hyatt House. That was when Atlanta got to be in its own. We had 1 million population in 1960. So did Birmingham. And at the time, we had a trouble getting the airport, the major airport in here. Birmingham did not want it, so we took it. And that's the difference between Atlanta and the rest of the cities in the South. It has grown to a population of 8 million people in the 16 county area. We're about a mile from the center of what you call downtown, and this was the outskirts of Atlanta back in the 1890s, and they wanted nothing to do with Piedmont Park at the time because it was too far out. And we had electrical buses here until about 1964, and we would take those buses and ride for a nickel, and you could go to Stone Mountain, and you could go all over Atlanta for about a nickel, I think it was. Certain routes were a dime. And we had great difficulties, but we learned a lot. Just Swede tet aujourd'hui. Good eating places downtown. Well, back in the 60s, we had Chick's Hendrix Domino Lounge right here, where you see Brother Dave Gardner sitting right here. City Auditorium, 1 block away, where professional wrestling with the great Freddie Blassie was held. To the right, 1 block away, is the world's tallest hotel, the Peachtree Plaza, built here in 1971. It's 75 stories tall. This is the highest point in Atlanta, where the old Lowe's Grand it was, where they premiered Gone with the Wind in 1939. Peachtree Plaza Westin Hotel right here. And now this is downtown Atlanta that no one knows anymore. No one ever comes here, I don't think. Fire of Brazil. Boy, it's so much I can't even remember it all. Rocking till 2 a.m. the Hard Rock Hotel. Hooters. God, they're in downtown Atlanta. Have you been down here, Steve?
Yeah.
Rib Joint. Wow. That was the old Davisons. And here's a Weinkauf Hotel on your right, burned in the late 1940s in December. Right here it was. And the state capitol has 22 ounces of gold brought about every 15 years from Dahlonega, Georgia. And on top of the statue is something that looks like the Statue of Liberty, but it's not. No one knows how it got here, but we think it's around 1882. No one ever knows officially how it got there. State capital, we have 159 counties in the state of Georgia, ranking us number 2 next to Texas. Take a left of the light. And probably one of the greatest music clubs of all time, the Royal Peacock, existed here on Auburn Avenue back in the 50s and 60s. James Brown, Ray Charles, Little Richard, all the greats came through. Matter of fact, Jimi Hendrix got fired to Little Richard in 1967 for outdressing him. And then Jimi Hendrix went to England right after that and actually became Jimi Hendrix, and I think it took him that firing for that to happen. Coca-Cola original building was on Edgewood Avenue, started in 1892. John Pemberton, a pharmacist in Columbus, Georgia, had invented it. And the Coca-Cola bottling company was brought here. Asa Candler marketed Coca-Cola, sold it to Bob Woodruff in 1922. That's when it seems like, well, Coca's always been around the Atlanta area. And it's fine peoples and good stock.